everyone. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Today we turn the mics inward and give you a behind-the-scenes look at another view. So just what do we do each week to prepare for our show? How do we select topics? Yes, positive stories about the African American community. What are our favorite shows and what shows resonate with you, our audience? Joining me around the table are producer Lisa Godley, audio engineer Victor Bowen, and Bert Schmidt, president and CEO of WHRO Public Media. We want to hear your thoughts about Another View as we prepare for our 8th year on the air. The making of Another View is next, so stay tuned.
Discussing today's topics from an African American perspective, this is Another View.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. It's a little risky, and it's a lot of exciting. Today, we're going to take you on a journey of the history of Another View. In July, we start our 8th year on the radio. Coupled with 2 years, Another View was a television broadcast. We have discussed today's issues from an African-American perspective for 10 years. Isn't that something? Thank you, Hampton Roads and beyond. We have people from all over the country streaming our program live or listening to our podcasts. It takes a team of dedicated professionals to put this show together on a weekly basis, and I want you to get to know them. Lisa Godley is the producer of Another View. Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
In a whole different role today,
Yes, indeed.
Victor Bowen is the man who makes me sound wonderful on the radio, our audio engineer. Victor Bowen, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I know you were a little reluctant, but we're happy to have you. And our fearless leader who was brave enough to let us create Another View, the president and CEO of WHRO Public Media, Bert Schmidt. Hey, Bert.
Good to be here.
It's good to have you. Absolutely. So,
I think this should be the Victor Bowen show. He always uses his ears. Today he has to use his mouth.
Absolutely.
It's an unusual thing for him.
Absolutely.
It's a different format today.
I want to throw out the phone number to our audience right now, 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Those are the numbers to call. Call us. Let us know what you think about Another View. Let us know if there are upcoming topics that you'd like to hear on the program. Just give us your feedback. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. So, Bert, let's go back to 2008. If you could think back that far.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Right.
And you called me in your office. This was before radio when we were looking at WHRO TV 15, our sister station.
Right.
And you wanted me to create a show, or we talked about creating a show that was specific to the African American community. Why?
Yeah, I mean, it even went back to when I was being interviewed for this job, and the board said, what are the kind of things you would do? And I've always believed the public media needs to be a reflection of the community. And when I was running the station in the Shenandoah Valley, we did shows on farming, and we had these farmer shows. And coming out here, and when I was researching the area and to better know it, there were two things that really stood out that were different from my the Shenandoah Valley. One was the military, of course, and then the other was the high African American population, a large percentage. I'm not sure the exact number. It was about like 30 or 40%.
It was like 40%,
something like that. So I said, when I got here and I started asking around, so what are we doing for the African American community? I got a lot of blank stares, saying, "What are you doing?" And they're like, well, "I don't know. We got one eyeful and a few things, but nothing local." So I said, well, "We're going to do something." So that's when I called you in and I said, "Barbara, I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to do something." And you took it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we pulled together 100. We sent out invitations to 100 community leaders from all over Hampton Roads and all over our listening audience, and we got about 60 people that came in.
Yeah, I remember those meetings.
Remember those days?
Yep.
And we had a working lunch, and it went from the Amazing Race to a talk show. And everything in between. Lisa, were you with us at that point, or did you join us a little bit later?
You brought me on.
That's what I thought. I brought you on a little bit later. But out of those meetings came the concept of the TV show, for Another View. And that's when Lisa was hired to help produce Another View. And you want to talk about what we used to do on TV back then.
Wow. Well, Barbara and I have a history because we worked together before. In fact, she hired me into news here in Hampton Roads Market. And when she came over here, she brought me over here. But we had a lot going on because we were actually putting video pieces together for it was a live to tape
show. Yes, because we would tape 2 shows at a time.
Right. We were taping 2 shows. I had forgotten that. We were taping
every other week. We would tape 2 shows every other week.
That's
yes,
right.
absolutely. So we had a lot going on. Now Victor was not a part of us at that point. Nope. I think Perry was with us
Smith.
as our audio engineer back then. So fast forward, I can't remember which governor it was, but we lost a bunch. Tell us what happened with that.
Governor McDonald decided he did not like public media, and was part of his campaign was to defund public media from statewide funding, and he did. So he got elected. He took all of our money away from the state that we got. And to this day, we don't get state community service grants. And so we had to sit down and we had to do lots of cuts throughout the organization. It was $1 million that we lost overnight. And so we looked at Kathy had a TV show, What Matters.
What Matters,
a TV show, and we said, look, and there were a lot of other things we did in the organization to address the $1 million cuts. And part of it was the local TV shows we knew were going to have to be cut, but we didn't want to. The mission of Another View was too important to lose. You can, and it was a talk show, so we said, I don't know who came up with the idea, but somebody said, let's make it a radio show. All right, so we'll give it to you. Barbara's waiting. So, all right. So Barbara had the brilliant idea to move to radio, and it made a lot of sense because the TV show was primarily talk,
right?
Sit around in chairs, so it could translate pretty well, and go from the half-hour TV show to an hour-long radio show, and so we made the transition, and I think it's worked great.
But there was some discussion, Bert, during that time as to whether or not the audience, because we know that there's a large audience for large African American audience for television.
Right.
We weren't quite sure if it was quite as large for radio and whether this would actually translate.
Well, yeah, it was a concern, and you hopefully you can do some promotion about it. To this day, I'm not sure that we absolutely know how much of the audience is African American versus white. I don't know. I haven't seen those numbers. I think we have anecdotal information about it, but I think the mission of having a conversation around issues from the African American perspective is something that the community needs. I think from as a old white guy myself, to listen in on conversations that I would not normally be a part of, which is what the show has been doing. There are times I don't like what I hear. I don't agree with opinions sometimes. Sometimes I'm shouting yay. I like what I hear, but that's the whole point of public radio in general. And I have learned a lot for over the years. There are things that have been said early on that I really was taken aback by, but then you understand the perspective of the African American perspective, and I've learned a lot over the years from the show, from just understanding a different point of view.
And Lisa, when we moved to radio, I mean, we've learned a lot also in terms of how we program Another View, and talk to our audience about how we decide on topics. How do we pick what we're going to talk about?
Well, a lot of times it's things that are happening in the world, how we want to find out how those are impacting the African American community in particular. And a lot of times, especially currently, there's a lot going on that impacts the African American community. So we're able to bring that perspective. And then we sit around and talk about things. And when we talk about things, you, myself, and Victor, the things that really generate conversation, we know are going to be really good conversational
That's
topics.
kind of how we tell whether or not we think it will make a good radio topic. Is when we sit down editorially to go through kind of a list, the things that we start talking about a lot, we go,
Yeah, sometimes it's even hard to get out of the production meeting to come into the studio because we're so engaged in a conversation before the show topic actually happens.
Absolutely. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call to join our conversation. What's your favorite Another View show? Give us a call. Let's talk to Karen in Williamsburg. Hi, Karen. You're on the air.
Hi, Barbara. Nice to speak to you.
Thank you. Nice to speak with you. Go ahead.
I called in to say that I'm not African American, but I always try to listen to Another View. And as far as I'm concerned, it's the best locally produced radio program that WHRV offers. I really try never to miss it. It gives me a perspective that I probably wouldn't have otherwise. I like the fact that living in Williamsburg, it gives me more of an insight into what's happening further down the peninsula and across. Anyway, I think you do a great job. I love the civility of the conversations I hear. I don't always agree, but my mind is always open to another point of view.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you, Karen, for the call. Thank you so much. You know, it's funny, Bert, and you all, when we first started the show, and I'd go out doing speaking engagements and so forth, and people, non-African Americans, would come up and they go, I'm white, but I listen to another view. It's like they would whisper. And we always got kind of a kick out of that because it was like, it's okay.
You're allowed.
You know,
right.
You're allowed. Victor, you do audio.
Yes.
Okay. So it's all about, the show really is all about you. You know that, right?
Yeah, this is a lot of responsibility. I do realize that.
But what for people who may not have ever seen a radio show come together or whatever, what exactly does an audio engineer do? And why is your job so critical to the success of the show?
So what I do from behind the board is I'm in our audio board. So our microphones, the music that you hear, Lisa's piece that you hear, that is manned off of our board. So I play the music, make sure the music is mixed level properly with the voice, not to be too loud, too soft. I think a lot of people don't understand that with Another View. That's just a good point, is that just because that it is a one-day show, it's not just all produced and come together on one day. Another View takes a whole week to prepare, be it from like the topics, getting guests, Lisa producing and curating her positive piece, to editing the piece, to getting people in the studio to record them. It's a lot of moving parts that goes into the audio part of.
And we spend a lot of time also picking sound bites or utilizing music or otherwise enhancing the talk portion of our show, which is a little different.
Yes, and that always takes time to make sure that the music sounds good, that it's radio quality. Sometimes you may have to, Lisa can attest, sometimes you have to tweak or re-record some elements. Sometimes you have to bring in other elements into that process to make a story come to life audio-wise, because being that it is a radio show, you don't have the eye to pick up on. So a lot of things you have to use, like if we're talking about like one of my first projects I worked on with Lisa was a farmer's market, and you have to use audio to describe the farmer's market. So maybe hearing a cash register or hearing people pick fruit or something like that.
Yeah, thumping the fruit and so forth. But Lisa, that does bring up a good point, because you and I come from television news where it's all about pictures.
Right.
And so when we first started in terms of radio, I know I had to make adjustments in terms of writing script and thinking about writing visually.
It's definitely been a learning process.
Okay,
it's
talk
definitely
about that.
been a learning process. I've listened to a lot of NPR stories to get a feel for different things and how things are put together. I remember one of our first years here, I think I had like 7 interns, and we went down to the beach to do a story on African Americans and skin cancer. And I said, okay, everybody, we're going to pick out these sounds. And somebody was running with a recorder, and they got the seagulls, and another person ran to get the waves. And then they said, there's somebody over there, rincing off. Let's get the water. When we got back and listened to it, I said, that sounds like somebody going to the bathroom. So we can't use that one for radio.
Thank you for not using that.
So, but you have to kind of tune your ear in to see what works and what doesn't work. And that's been kind of interesting and a challenge, because with television, you get to see everything. Right. But with radio, it's like, I don't know if we want to get that message across there. So,
and it really also plays a part in terms of what topics we decide we're going to cover also, particularly for the positive pieces, because it's hard sometimes when something is very, very visual to describe it and make it translate on radio.
Yeah.
So that's always a challenge. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. We're talking about behind the scenes of Another View. Give us a call and let us know what your favorite show is, or if you have a suggestion for us in terms of this upcoming season, topics you'd like to hear, let us know. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Larry joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, Larry. You're on the air.
Hello, Barbara. How y'all doing today?
We're doing great. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
Good.
You and I have exchanged a couple of emails. But I'm a 65-year-old white male, was a history major in college, and since listening to your show, I really would like to hear your pundits come up with a suggested reading list that would help educate people like me as to the African-American experience in America. Recently, I've read the autobiography of Malcolm X, The Devil in the Grove, which is about Thurgood Marshall. I've read James Baldwin's Notes from a Native Son, and several other books. And there's some movies I think are excellent, Marshall being one, and another one being the Roots 2, the more recent version of Roots 2, and the PBS series on the empires of Africa. But I don't know where to go next. Now, I don't know if your listeners or pundits would have an idea, but I would love to hear your ideas on the radio.
Okay. Larry, let me ask you a question. Did you start including these books and movies in your repertoire because of listening to Another View, or were you just automatically going there anyway?
No, absolutely. I was listening to Another View, and I've wanted to turn the world around. Until I was reading recently, I did not realize how much the African American community miss their roots in how during the time of slavery their history was completely chopped off. So they have no roots going back 200 years ago, unless they're lucky like Alex Haley and has an idea of where to look.
Got you. Okay.
Larry, you're going to make me cry.
Because that is really what we strive to do. Thank you so much for the call, Larry. And we're going to look into trying to come up either with a book club or a reading list. And that's a really good idea. So thank you for that.
So I assume you're going to find that list and you'll put it in social media.
Yes.
Would be the step.
That's one
so
way.
I'm curious how social media has played into the whole radio show thing, because it used to be you had the show and you did it, but now you've got this whole other element you didn't have years ago. I'm curious how that's another piece of producing the show.
Yes, it is. And I had to learn how to do Facebook and learn how to do Instagram and learn how to do Twitter and utilize them in such a way. So go ahead, Lisa. I'll let you start with how you utilize social media now.
Well, I try every time to post different things. Like I just posted our pictures and things like that and letting people know what's going on.
As the theme song was playing, you were posting.
As the theme song was playing. 10 seconds before it.
Right. So we try to, sometimes things get a little crazy and I don't get to post like I want to, but, we started and then we have our social media guru over there, Miss Grace, who,
Grace
gets
Douglas,
things out for us too. So that's cool. And then people will write us and let us know what they think. And,
that's usually one of the things that I
things.
spend time doing right after the show is by the time I get back to my desk, there's usually feedback on our Facebook page about that particular topic. And so if people have specific questions, I'll try to answer those questions or forward them to our guests, because they're the experts. I'm just facilitating the conversation, but they are the experts, and so we utilize it that way. Go ahead.
And sometimes you take Facebook questions on the air as well.
Yes, absolutely. Like yes. So we do have people write in. The other thing about Another View, though, that we I know Lisa and I, when we talked about first putting the show together and making it special, one of the things that's also very important to us was to have African American experts. In the show, and it's not always, but if there is a topic and we can find someone who is of color to talk about it, because those are people who normally don't get the credit for being experts in an area.
Well,
and so we try to bring those to light.
It also shows the examples to maybe young people who are listening. Like, look, I can be fill in the blank, whoever the expert is, and shining a positive light on African Americans who have excelled in their profession. And it's not just about being a sports figure or a rap singer. There's lots of things young people can be.
So we try to do that. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. We're talking about behind the scenes of Another View. If you have a topic you'd like to hear us discuss in the future, give us a call, or just give us a call and tell us what your favorite show is. Jeff joins us from Norfolk. Hi, Jeff. You're on the air.
Oh, hey. Or rather, good afternoon. Thanks for having me. I was calling in reference to future topics.
Okay.
And, since we have a bus system here, which I consider like laughable, or transit system, and it's my experience that mostly African Americans ride the bus, and I've heard their complaints, literally hours to get anywhere. I thought that might be a topic of discussion in the future.
Okay. Thank you so much. Jeff, how are you a frequent listener to Another View?
Yes and no, not by design, but for whatever reason, I'm in my car at noon every Friday. I cannot miss you guys quite literally, And as an aside, last week I heard you guys, but I was fumbling for my phone or didn't have your number and couldn't call in. Your guy from the Trust, man, I'm disturbed by him for this reason. Well, no, he's at the one hand, he says, I'm a baby boomer and we've completely failed. And then on the other hand, he's all fire and brimstone about how the kids aren't all right. It's not good. So if you're either a failure or not.
Okay.
But lighten up. The kids are all right, okay?
Thanks so much for the call, Jeff. We appreciate that. Absolutely. Which brings us to the round table. Well, first of all, we had a magic combination.
We did. It was a dream
Roger
team.
Chesley, Will Levis, Bill Thomas, and Carol Pretlow. And, they hung with us for 7 years.
Long time.
Long time, yeah.
Considering what we pay them.
Exactly, which Roger would remind us of every week.
Right.
Which he would remind us of. But, Bert, I want to hear your perspective about the Roundtable.
Roundtable is always my favorite show. I mean, and I've mentioned this to you before that, again, that is that conversation that this white old guy would normally not be in. And there are comments that get made that sometimes irk me. And because there's such a variety of opinions, they irk people around the table as well. And then there's times I'm cheering for points of view. And sometimes I'm surprised who I'm cheering for. It's like,
you mean you actually cheer for Bill Thomas?
It's just you can agree with somebody, then you hear a different perspective. You say, "Oh, I get it." Well, I understand, because this hour-long conversation. It's not just a quick bullet point. It's not the horrific things on social media that you 140 characters or a quick Facebook thing. It's a conversation that, even though the first comment may be like, wow, I don't get why you think that, you listen to the conversation a little deeper and like, oh, I see that perspective now. I get how you feel that way. And yes, there are times, whether it's Bill or others, who will make statements that at first you have a visceral reaction to, but then if you listen further, if you can get past the emotion of the comment, like, oh, I get that. There's often a common place. You may not be 100% in agreement, but there's enough commonality that you can have an intelligent conversation, which is really what public radio does in general.
I would get calls from people, particularly in the African American community, who would be frustrated with us over our choices around the roundtable. And, I would just constantly remind people it's called Another View for a reason, because it really is to bring a variety of topics, and also to let folks know that, just as in every other community, there is diversity within the African American community. We are not a monolith. We don't all walk and talk and sing and think the same way.
That's for sure.
And so that really comes across.
If I could, I just want to ask you a question, not to turn the tables on you, but I will. When we first talked about the TV show 8 years ago, one of the things we had to figure out was who the host was going to be. And it was not, you were not the Barbara Ham Lee you are today.
No, I was not.
And when I said, how about you? So you might talk about how it's changed from, being a producer, which is a lot of your history, to now being on the microphone and in front of the camera as much as you are today.
It was a complete revamping or redoing of myself in terms of my career, because you're right, my career started in television news and stayed in television management all the way through being news director at News Channel 3 in the area,
camera.
But never on camera. Yeah. And so when we were talking about, because I came into the room with a list for you, and you said, what about you? It totally blew me away. And so so I actually left your office because I remember this day, and I called Kathy Lewis and I called Barbara Sierra, and I said, give me some tips. And they were like, you got to be kidding me. You have trained reporters in this market for years. Are you kidding me? Do what you tell everybody else to do. And literally, that's how that came about. But it has been, it's very interesting to be on this side of the microphone. As a producer, and you know this, Lisa, you do the research, you come up with the ideas, you put the right people together, but you have to depend on someone else to carry it over the line. In essence, and so being that person to carry it over the line now is really cool. And
do you feel more vulnerable because you are out there now?
My biggest fear is that someone is going to say something on air that I did not research enough, and I let something go.
Yeah.
That's my biggest concern out of anything that I do. I love having conversations with people, and so that part is easy. But I'm constantly thinking in my head, especially when people start throwing stats. That's why I have a fabulous producer who is constantly looking stuff up for me on the other end and letting me know, yes, this is true, or no, it's not, or challenge them on this. And so we kind of go, having that support is really, really important.
And now you are recognized when you're out in the community.
Yes,
that's a whole different.
And that's a whole nother thing. And I appreciate that, Hampton Roads. Thank you very much, because people are very kind to me for the most part. But they will come up. And the thing that frustrates me, though, and it's something that we still, I think Lisa and Victor and I talk about this all the time. I can go to an event, and it happens to be a predominantly white event, and people will quote chapter and verse what they've heard on the show. Yeah. They know it. I go to an event, and it's a predominantly African-American event, and they don't recognize that we're on the air yet. And so that's still a struggle for us in terms of just trying to get people
what's your show called?
Over. Yeah, another view. What's 89.5? And so, trying to come up with creative ways, because we don't have a large budget, in terms of being able to do a lot of advertising and so forth, but trying to stay on social media, trying to get it out that way, and trying to figure out other ways through speaking engagements and things like that, just to bring awareness and hopefully
certainly the speaking engagements for you.
Yeah. That's helping.
It's a huge thing now that, again, I don't think before the shows you had, now you're emceeing things everywhere. You're all over the place. Yeah.
If you're just joining us, we're talking about the making of Another View with producer Lisa Godley, audio engineer Victor Bowen, and Bert Schmidt, president and CEO of WHRO Public Media. Now, we want to hear from you, our audience, 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call to join our conversation. Let's go to Semaine. I hope I pronounced that correctly, in Williamsburg.
You did. Thank you. I really appreciate your show. I really enjoy listening to it.
Thank you.
But you were talking about show topics. I would love to hear about the Olmec people of South America that predate the Aztecs and Incas. They have the really large heads that's been undug and discovered. So,
okay, that's a new topic for me. I'm gonna have to do some research on that and find out. But
Lisa
is furiously writing down your topic, this idea. Absolutely. So, man, how did you find out about Another View?
I've been listening to you guys for years. I do home health, and I just really enjoy Fridays to hear you guys, and so that's how. NPR is wonderful. Yeah.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. Hope you remember. See, Bert taught me that too. Thank you so much for the call. We really appreciate that. Let's go to Ellis in Norfolk. Hi, Ellis. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, Barbara.
Well, hello there, Ellis. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I just wanted to call in and give support to Another View. Your program is extremely important, not only for our city, but also for our eastern part of the Commonwealth, and it is always exciting and interesting. I do want to emphasize just one thing.
Okay.
The round table itself is something that you might want to consider having more people on.
Okay. Fair enough.
And in that regard, the question of the opinions within the black community. Most intelligent people know that the black community is not monolithic, but the question of assertions that are made by some of your people on the round table, I would hope that you all check very carefully for accuracy.
Okay. I hear you, Ellis James. We really appreciate it. Does that name ring a bell to you, Victor?
Yes, Ellis
Would you
James is a proud member of WHRO, and we make sure sometimes that we make sure Ellis James has a physical copy of the show.
Yes.
So,
he comes up and picks up CDs and so forth, and he's very, very active in terms of city work and in terms of politics in the city of Norfolk. And
a member of WHRO.
Yes, and we see him every week at the city council meeting in Norfolk.
And Ellis brings up a good point about
he does.
The comments people make that you have to fact check much more, it seems like, today than in the past.
Yes,
people can just make statements, throw out stuff that just has no basis. And in a live show like this it's tough to fact check and call people on it.
And the other thing, that's the other reason why we try to find people who have differing opinions and can kind of fact check themselves too as they're talking, and that's the challenge is now that we don't have the original roundtable. We're trying people out. You want to talk about that process, Lisa?
but the roundtable has fact checked themselves as well. They called each other out from times and said, no, that's not right, and actually has seen them pull up physical evidence on the.
Well, see, you had Roger and Will, who were both journalists,
absolutely, and so they would come in with sheets of paper already from background work that they had done. But we're talking about trying to find new pundits.
We have been interviewing new pundits. The process actually continues, trying to get the perfect gel of individuals with differing opinions, and we continue to. So if you know somebody, give us a call. And
exactly. So we're experimenting. We're trying to figure out where we're going to go with that as a unit moving forward. We've got some other calls. Let's go to Ventrilla. I hope that's correct, in Virginia Beach.
Yes, it's Ventrella.
Oh, Ventrella, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, and you guys? I hope you're doing well.
Thank you.
I wanted to make a comment related to, you had stated that when you go to some venues, the African Americans don't know or haven't heard of the show. Mm-hmm. And I'm one of those. I had never heard of the show, but I'd actually heard of it from a coworker. And he told me about the show, and I get off work early on Fridays, and I listened to it that day, and I have been hooked ever since. I kid you not.
That's fantastic.
I love the show. Yes, and sometimes, I get frustrated about the conversation, but absolutely, it is another view. It does cause you to, think of things in a different way. So I just wanted to let you guys know I love the show. I love the round table when it was, going good. I love, what you guys do, and keep doing a good job.
Okay,
can I ask Ventrella a question? Ventrella,
Mm-hmm.
This is Bert Schmidt. We always try to figure out how to best market this program, and so where would you, if we marketed this so you knew about it, where would you be the best places to market this show for somebody like yourself?
Personally, that's a tough question because, like I said, I heard about it from a coworker. But even if it was marketed as a small marketing on a bus, because I found that when I'm going to work, I look at the advertisements on the buses. Or I listen to the local R&B station or something like that.
I was going to ask you about that. If you heard it, if you were listening to R&B music on another station, and you heard a promo about Another View, would you switch over?
Yes. When he told me about it, like I said, when he told me, I was like, I've never heard of that. He said, oh, yeah, she comes on Barbara Hamley, she comes on. I'm like, well, who is she? But like I said,
well, we're glad you certainly know now.
But the irony of that is I had forwarded that. I'm like, oh, no, you got to listen to Barbara Hamlin. You got to listen to Another View. Who is that? And I forwarded. So word of mouth has really got a lot of people.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. I don't know how she got cut off, but we appreciate, and word of mouth has been another way that people have found out about the show. Let's go to Troy in Portsmouth. Hi, Troy. Hi, Troy. You on the air?
Hello.
Troy, are you there?
Yeah, I am.
Hi. How are you?
Miss Barbara, I wanted to tell you all, you guys are doing a wonderful job down there.
Thank you.
And I listen to the show every Friday. I actually drive tractor trailer full time, so I get down and I do it locally, so I get to hear the radio all the time. I don't get an opportunity to call, but I had talked to you before. The subject matter was about the black youth and the male black youth, and my opinion in terms of direction when you put together your panels, it's wonderful. It's wonderful to have experts, degreed individuals, doctors, lawyers, those who have an opinion. It's wonderful. But what I'd like to see is that we go a little bit deeper. We talk to the smaller local businesses that are owned by African-American men that project a point to these young African-American men as to, some direction in the community. Not just so much a professional opinion, but an everyday opinion, those who've actually struggled and got out of the situation.
Okay. That's a great idea. All right. Thank you so much, Troy. How did you find out about the show? Was it just from riding around? Are you a member of WHRV?
I am a sustainer.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Yay.
I'm a black-owned business. I have a catering service also in the area. But I'm from Williamsburg. I reside in Portsmouth now. And everything about the South Side and Portsmouth I love. The community, I try to get involved. I try to volunteer with the elderly. I try to do anything I can to help. And I just love to see some of these guys come together that have struggled, fought their way out, and have a small business doing well, and to be able to project that to these young men. A lot of times, unfortunately, higher education isn't in reach. Mm-hmm. Not that anybody does. Everyone doesn't want to go. There's some that don't want to go, some that do. But sometimes it's not in reach. But your hard work is what makes it happen.
Okay, absolutely. Troy, thank you for that. We appreciate that. And Lisa is furiously writing notes as you're talking. So have a great day. Thanks so much for the call. Let's go to Joel. And I'm not sure where Joel's calling from, but hi, Joel. Where are you? Joel, are you there?
Are we saying Joel or Joe?
Saying Joel. Joel. Did we have the wrong name?
Joe?
Yeah.
From Surrey?
Hi, Joe from Surrey. How are you?
Barbara, how are you?
Let me tell our audience, Surrey was the very first community to give Another View an award when we first went on TV.
Well deserved. Well deserved. And I'm a big fan, as you know. And I sing your praises and the praises of the show here in Surrey County. And I encourage all of the people who listen to tell all of the people who don't to support it financially. You're doing a wonderful job. Your show is enlightening, wonderful topics, and it allows your audiences to be exposed to things that they may not otherwise be exposed to. And I just love your show, love you, Barbara, and all of your crew, and thank you so much for being on. I financially support and will continue to financially support your program.
Thank you so much, Joe. I really, really appreciate that. I had the honor of being the keynote speaker at the Democratic luncheon in Surrey County recently, and we were talking about the show and about a lot of different things that we do here in Another View. So they're big supporters in Surrey area.
Surrey is interesting because, as you know, we're owned by 19 public school divisions. Surrey is not one of them. So it's a little bit of a hole. So Surrey folks, love to talk someday. Did you hear
that,
all
Joe?
the services we provide to schools, Surrey's just not in the mix, and so it's a shame. And it would. The cost is almost inconsequential to them, but maybe someday we'll have those conversations.
Be able to have that conversation. Yeah. Well, maybe Joe can help open some doors. He's pretty involved. Yeah. Absolutely. Ray joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, Ray. You're on the air.
The cost is almost inconsequential.
Hello. Ray, can you turn your radio down, please?
Ray joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, Ray. You're on the air.
We're getting feedback.
No,
okay.
Ray's radio.
Ray, are you there? Can you turn your radio down? Okay, somehow we're having some problems, and now it looks like all of our phone lines have gone down. So we might be having some issues going on. So while the substitute crew, since you guys are in here, are handling things, we will continue on with the conversation. So, Lisa, what have you learned from being a producer on Another View?
Wow, so much, so very much. I've learned that. Wow, so much. Well, one of the things we were talking about was just how to put the show together and the different elements and different things that we need. Gosh, woo, that's a really good question.
Lisa, how do you come up with the pieces, the
high.
positive pieces? How do you even identify those?
Different ways. Sometimes people come up to Barbara with ideas. Sometimes people come up to me directly. I'll get emails from people telling me about different things that are going on in their neighborhoods and things like that. We have sometimes it's different people coming into the area. We'll find out about it and we'll say, let's see if we can talk to them, and we'll put that together that way. But it just a lot of different ways.
One of the things that the original group that helped us form Another View, they said two things that were really important. They said, yes, you can do your talk show, that's fine, but we really want something positive about the African American community every week, and we have stuck to that ever since we've been on the air. And it's really important because we really wanted to show a different perspective. I mean, Lisa and I used to have lots of conversations at the beginning about how we were tired of the, black man in handcuffs visual or sound. And we wanted to do something that was good going on, because there's a lot of good things that are going on that people just weren't aware of. And so that became really important. Joyce joins us from from Norfolk. Hi, Joyce. You're on the air.
Hi. I had a friend say to me the fall before Trump was elected, he said to me, Joyce, what is the matter with you white people? Well, I had a lot of thoughts on that, but since then I've read a great deal. And I wonder if you could do some shows where people just sort of gave their opinion of what white people could do to be, I don't know, less abrasive, less annoying. Just people's opinion on what they think about white people and what we can do about ourselves.
Okay, thank you, Joyce, for the call. And kind of a vein with that is Race, Let's Talk About It. Series that we've done. We started in 2015, and we've done 9 of them, we figured out.
Yep.
And this is where we start a topic on Another View, and then we actually go into the community and have a town hall discussion about it. And it's some of them have worked better than others, but we picked some pretty interesting topics and some topics that made some people a little uncomfortable. Yeah. But that's the point, for us to be able to talk about it.
I do think there's a challenge that we all face of trying not to have people talk past each other. We've got these bubbles a lot of people live in, and then you've got the Another View listeners. Then you've got listeners on maybe an AM station that they live in that different world. And I've always wanted to figure out, how can you bridge respectful, intelligent conversation amongst very different points of view, but try to find commonality, because we used to have those conversations. Now we live in our different worlds, and we have, the town halls are great, but often you come in and they're all kind of in the same headspace. And then you can go to another town hall perhaps, and they're in a different space. And how do you bring people together that are respectful, intelligent, not shouting, but maybe come from different points of view, but can understand people's perspectives? And that's a challenge.
Yeah, because I was going to say, that's one of the things that we're looking at for this year as we start to plan our race conversations coming up. How do we get variety of voices in the room and be able to reach them and actually talk with them?
And we always tell them at the very beginning, this is going to be a respectful conversation.
Yes. Yeah. But we do have a lot of people who kind of follow us too, which continues to have that kind of same conversation. But to find, like, I understand what you're saying, those people who may be completely on the other side, but willing to talk about it in a respectful way.
Well, and I'll give you the example, and I don't want to get too far into this because I'm an old white guy, but you look at the Black Lives Matter issue and the perspective of, so for example, in African American, what the hashtag means, meaning they matter. Black lives actually matter. Where a white person might say, well, all lives matter. Don't we all matter? But it's that perspective. If you don't understand where people are coming from, they may be coming from a point of of goodness, but if all you're looking at is a hashtag and you don't understand, if you're not having conversations with other people, then you don't understand. And you may be in the same place, but people start becoming offended, whether it's NFL players kneeling. It's a lot of talking past each other without really understanding that, we all want to respect the country, but we want to respect free speech. But there's these, you're in camps now so often on these issues because of just, I don't want to call it stupid, but there's no depth to the conversation because it's just, these tweets that people put out.
Well, and the other thing too is that people get so emotional that they can't hear.
Right.
Defensive
and defensive. Well. Exactly, Victor. That the phones are lit up, and we have 3 minutes left in this segment. No. I can't believe that. Let's see if we can get one more call in. Let's see, where are we going? Whitney joins us from Norfolk. Hi, Whitney.
Hi, Barbara. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the incredible show that you put on every week.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead. I wanted to say, I'm a white female, and I try to listen the best I can, and I think that one of the really incredible, important things that your show does is it provides empathy for experiences that I would not otherwise have. And I think that when people can learn and understand where other experiences come from, that helps our society grow and we become a more integrated and understanding and empathetic society. And your show does a really just fantastic job doing that. And I just really appreciate every week the panels that you bring on and talking about hard topics and issues that we need to understand.
Thank you so very much, Whitney, for that call. We really appreciate that. So I guess our goal of what we try to do every week is working. Go ahead, Victor. Give me a last thought about the show as we start to wrap up, because we're getting out of time. I can't believe it.
I just thought Whitney really got to the core of what Another View tries to do. And just like what Bert was saying, try to bring people together to look at a different experience, because a lot of times people take their own experience and put that against the world and look at the world that way, which is an inaccurate way of looking at it, because a lot of people upbringings and experience may be a lot different from yours, and not everybody's experience is the same. So I think Whitney got to the core of what we try to do here.
Okay. Last word, 30 seconds.
Woo. Some of the callers have made my weekend, because we work so hard to try and bring a different perspective, to the Hampton Roads region. And when people are calling and saying, they get it and they want to know more, and I'm just grinning from ear to ear. I'm just so happy to hear these calls and to hear what people are saying.
Thank you, Bert. Final word.
I'm glad you fill the show. I was concerned that what are we going to talk about for an hour? It worked out.
I told you we could do that. Listen, if you didn't get a chance to give us your show idea, check us out on Facebook, and we'll be happy to take down your information, and we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Essie Patha-Murkerson from Law and Order. You are listening to Another View.
They know that's my favorite transition of all time. I just love Law and Order. But at any rate, in the spring of last year, our Lisa Godley sat down with a young man who had an amazing story to tell. You see, in a matter of weeks, William Williams went from trying not to be noticed to taking center stage on a nationally syndicated television show. During the interview, William shared how he used life's hard knocks to bang out a bright future. At the time, William was a sophomore at Norfolk's Granby High School. He's now a rising senior. Not only did the team here at Another View think this was an incredible story, but so did the Virginia Association of Broadcasters, who have nominated the piece in the category of Outstanding Feature Reporting, which makes this the perfect opportunity to bring you this encore airing of William's story, also known as Beating Bullying.
My dream is I want to become president in 2036, which is when I turn 35.
What made you decide I want to be president of the United States?
Well, I've always had an interest into politics. And I find that one of the greatest ways to change someone's life is in the seat of the presidency. And I think that being in that position, I'm able to help people a lot more than I would in other positions.
There's no doubt that William Williams dreams big. If you don't believe me, ask comedian, author, and show host Steve Harvey.
William clearly has the drive and determination to fulfill all his dreams. And in honor of it being the 10th Annual Dreamers Academy, I wanted to be sure that it gets even closer to making those dreams a reality. That's why we're giving you today a check for $10,000. What? Are you for real? Yeah, man.
Williams' connection to Harvey started a little over a month ago when he was selected to participate in the 4-day Disney Dreamers Academy, a program designed to unlock the potential in young people by connecting them with inspirational leaders who teach them how to set goals, make plans, and dream big. Event coordinators had seen a video of William doing spoken word and asked him if he would do it there. So the Granby High School honors student looked deep into himself and within a couple of hours captivated the other 99 dreamers with a performance that started like this.
I am an African American, albino. To this truth I must confess. Ever since the day of my birth, the term moonshine has been branded on my chest, and you just can't know the pain of being a little black kid with skin like snow, like every day. The kids in school would alienate me, make me look like I was nothing more than a worthless human being until they had convinced me that my albinism was a blight, that because of this complexion, I couldn't be black, I was just an off-white. Tearing through my self-esteem like it was air, like it was nothing. White boy. They would call out in the hallways as they walked past me. Snowflake is how they called out to me when they caught me outside, and white chocolate is how they defined me every time when I stepped within their vicinity.
I asked William why he decided to share his story.
I think the best way of showing everybody how to accept themselves is to tell my story of me not accepting myself, being bullied as a kid because of my albinism and being looked at as different, letting myself get into a state of depression and finding ways coming out of that.
When I was 9, I had already tried to myself 5 times. And all I have to say to all those kids that dragged me through the dirt, made me feel like mud, is thank you.
By the end of his 5-minute performance, the Granby High School sophomore had the room on its feet as he thanked his bullies.
So thank you for telling me that I was a snowflake so that I can show you how unique I truly am. So thank you.
As I mentioned earlier, Steve Harvey was so impressed that he invited William to be a guest on his television show. And from that point on, things just kept getting better.
We're going to take this $10,000. We're going to give it to your mom so y'all can get a place to stay. And we take $10,000, do that, and then I'm going to take my foundation. I'm going to send you to college.
William says he's thinking Brown or Georgetown. But for now, William is prepping for the International Poetry Slam in San Francisco. What an amazing last few weeks for William Williams. For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
You know, I hadn't heard that in a while. Oh, my goodness. What an incredible thing. We're out of time. Thank you so much for listening to Another View today. Our theme music was composed and performed by Jay Sennett. Jonah Grinkowitz, producer of Hearsay with Kathy Lewis, stepped in to produce today's show. Todd Washburn took over as audio engineer, and Jordan Yowell answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Happy Father's Day, everybody. We'll see you next week for Another View.